Hello and welcome to this new lesson. Today we will talk about the first step in soldering, which is preparation. So, if you are preparing the cable for a connector, put any connector parts first. The screw on part of an XLR or casing of a 1/4 jack of, for example. Get into the habit of sliding these on before you start on the cable, or else you can bet it won't be long before you finish soldering your connector only to discover you forget to put the connector casing on and have to start all over again. As you can see here, we have a connector casing and a plastic, let's say a plastic support for the connector. So when buying the connector, you'll buy it with these two items. You need to put them before start soldering, because if you solder these items, you won't be able to place these items inside the cable. So you need to take this step into consideration. If you have a connector, you have to place any accessories or supporting parts inside the cable before starting soldering. Once you have all the connector part on, you will need to strip the insulation from your cable. This means removing the insulation from the end of the wire and exposing the copper core. You can either use a wire stripper, side cutter, or a knife to do this. It's up to you. The obvious tool to choose to strip a wire would be a wire stripper for sure. Now, there are many types of wire strippers. Most of them work the same. You simply put the wire in and squeeze it and pull the end bit off. It will cut to a preset depth, and if you have chosen the right depth, it will cut the insulation off perfectly. It is possible to choose the wrong depth and cut too deeply or too shallow, but they are very easy to use. These are two of the examples of the wire strippers. Now, in some cases you may need to use a pocket knife or side cutter. Use side cutter for small cable and a pocket knife for bigger cables. Take this into consideration. If you are using side cutters as shown here, as you can see, this is called a side cutter. Position them about 10 millimeters, half an inch from the end, and gently squeeze the cutter into the insulation to bites it, but not for enough to cut the copper strands of the core. Open the cutters slightly so you can turn the wire and pierce the rest of the insulation. You may have to do this a few times to cut through all of the insulation, but it's better to cut too shallow and have to turn and cut again rather than cut the core and have to start again. So it's up to you, and it's up to how you use your own stripper. We will show you this in video in the practical part of this course at the end, but for now you will have to stick to these instructions to cut the wire correctly. Now you should be able to slide the insulation off with your cutter or pull it off with your finger. This may sound like a tedious method, but in no time at all you will be able to do it in 2 cuts and a flick of the cutters. So you will get used to it. When removing the insulation from larger cable using a knife, great caution should be used. The chance of cutting yourself is very possible in that case because you are not using the right tool. Step 4. Stripping large cable using a knife. Determine the amount of the outer jacket that is to be removed. Hold the cable in one hand and the knife in the other hand. Place the sharp edge of the knife at the location on the cable where the jacket is to be removed. Pull the blade of the knife around the cable, applying enough pressure to score the jacket. Return the knife to a safe location. Hold the cable with both hands on both sides of the location where you have scored the jacket. Begin bending the cable back and forth to stress the jacket. This will cause the jacket to split where you have scored the jacket. Now slide the outer jacket off the cable. If you are removing more than 4 feet of jacket from the cable, you will need to do additional steps. At 5 to 6 inches from the end of the cable, using your knife, carefully cut into the jacket to the end of the cable. Peel back the jacket to expose the inner wires. Grab hold of the jacket in one hand and the inner wires with the other hand and pull them apart. The jacket will split as you pull until you get to the location on the cable that you have already cut through the jacket. These are the basic steps for the preparation. They basically teach you how to expose the cover so that you can solder that cover correctly. You have to take these steps into consideration when cutting. I recommend choosing the right wire stripper so that it will make your job or your life way much easier, and you will be avoiding hurting yourself. In the next lesson we will talk about tying, but that's it for now. If you have any question, please ask in the Q&A board. Thanks for watching. This is Educational Engineering Team.